Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter, and before you spend another quarter from your pocket change, you need to hear this story because what happened to a cashier in Tennessee will absolutely blow your mind. She was counting her drawer at the end of her shift, just like she'd done 1,000 times before, sorting through the same boring quarters everyone handles every single day, when something made her pause on a 2016 deep Cumberland Gap quarter that looked completely ordinary. Just another coin from circulation. Nothing special about it at first glance. But she'd been watching our videos and remembered something critical about these particular quarters. This coin, this seemingly ordinary piece of pocket change that millions of people have touched and spent without a second thought, has sold for as much as $120 million. And I'm not talking about ancient gold coins or rare silver dollars. I'm talking about a quarter from 2016 that could be sitting in your change jar right now. The 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter was minted in Denver to honor the historic mountain pass that opened the gateway to westward expansion, a beautiful design featuring the iconic gap with pioneers moving through it. And the Denver Mint produced millions of these coins that went straight into circulation. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. A tiny percentage of these quarters left the mint with errors so rare and so valuable that collectors have literally gone into bidding wars trying to acquire them. Now, you might be thinking, how does a quarter from just 8 years ago become worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime? That's the question that keeps collectors up at night and sends people scrambling through their coin collections. The secret lies in a combination of die errors, striking anomalies, and varieties that occur during the minting process. Errors that are nearly impossible to spot unless you know exactly what you're looking for, which is why tens of thousands of these valuable quarters are still in circulation being used to buy coffee and parking meters. One of the most valuable errors is the dramatic die break that creates what collectors call a cud on the obverse, a raised blob of metal along the rim that occurs when a piece of the die breaks off during production. And when this happens on a Cumberland Gap quarter in just the right location, affecting Washington's profile or the date area, the value skyrockets into territories that seem completely impossible. But that's not even the most valuable variety, because some 2016 D quarters were struck with misaligned dies, creating doubled images on critical design elements. Doubling that's visible on Liberty, on the date, or on details of the Cumberland Gap scene itself. And when you combine multiple errors on a single coin, that's when auction houses start calling it a perfect storm specimen. Here's what makes this even more incredible. The highest grade examples with dramatic errors in near-perfect mint state condition have sold at major auctions for amounts that sound like lottery winnings. We're talking about enough money to buy a mansion, pay off every debt you have, and retire comfortably, all from a single quarter. If you're checking your quarters after this video, smash that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter because we're covering coins that could literally change your financial future. And hit that like button if this story has you looking at pocket change differently. The grading is absolutely critical here because a 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter in average circulated condition, even with minor errors, might be worth a few $100s, but that exact same error type in MS 68 or MS 69 grade, basically perfect uncirculated condition with full mint luster and zero contact marks, can be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions when the error is significant enough. Authentication is crucial because once word spread about these valuable quarters, counterfeiters started producing fakes, taking regular 2016 D quarters and artificially creating what looked like die breaks, or using altered dies to strike false doubled images. Which is why you absolutely must have any potentially valuable coin authenticated by PCGS or NGC before you start planning how to spend that fortune. The discovery stories are what really make this exciting, like the grandmother in Ohio who found one in a roll of quarters from her bank and couldn't believe it when the coin shop owner's eyes went wide, or the teenager who pulled one from his fast food register and ended up paying for his entire college education. These are real stories happening to real people who knew what to look for. Wait until you see what's next, because the coin coming up has an even more unbelievable backstory that shocked the numismatic community. The market for these quarters is absolutely on fire right now, with collectors actively searching through bankrolls, buying boxes of quarters from their local branches, and attending coin shows specifically hunting for 2016 Cumberland Gap errors, and every time one sells at auction for a record price, it drives even more demand. Can you imagine checking your wallet right now and finding a coin worth more than your house? That's the reality for people who've discovered these quarters. And the best part is you don't need any special equipment to start looking, just knowledge of what to search for and a willingness to check your change carefully. The key identification markers include examining the rim for raised cuds or die breaks, checking all lettering for doubling using a magnifying glass, looking for off-center strikes where the design doesn't align properly with the rim, and inspecting for strike-through errors where foreign material got between the die and the coin blank. Don't go anywhere because the next coin we're covering has collectors fighting over it for reasons that will absolutely blow your mind. The historical significance of the Cumberland Gap itself adds another layer of collectability. This was the passage that Daniel Boone blazed through the Appalachian Mountains, opening Kentucky and the Western Territories to settlement, a pivotal moment in American history. And having that heritage combined with rare minting errors creates the perfect combination that serious collectors crave. Professional graders look for specific things when evaluating these quarters. Full strike details with every element of the design sharp and clear, original mint luster without any cleaning or artificial enhancement, minimal to zero contact marks or bag scratches, and most importantly, authentic errors that occurred at the mint rather than post-mint damage. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt through American coinage, subscribe right now and share this video with anyone who handles quarters regularly, because someone you know could be sitting on a fortune. The Denver Mint mark, that tiny D below Washington's neck, is your first confirmation that you've got a potential winner. And from there, you need to examine every detail of the coin under good lighting with at least 5x magnification, looking for any of the error types that command serious money. Some collectors have made it their mission to assemble complete error sets of the America, the Beautiful Quarter Series, and the 2016 Cumberland Gap with a major error is one of the absolute key dates they need, creating consistent demand that keeps values climbing year after year. The psychology of finding one of these quarters is fascinating because every single person who's discovered a valuable example remembers the exact moment, where they were, what they were doing, the rush of realization that they were holding something worth life-changing money. And that's the thrill that keeps people searching. Remember that cashier from Tennessee who started this story? She had that coin authenticated. It came back as genuine with a dramatic die break, graded MS 67. And when it sold at auction 3 months later, she walked away with enough money to buy a house cash, quit her job, and start the business she'd always dreamed about, all because she took 5 extra seconds to look at a quarter before throwing it in the register. The 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter represents everything exciting about modern coin collecting, the possibility that treasure is still out there in circulation, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for, someone like you who's watching this video right now and learning the secrets that could change everything. Next, the 2008 Arizona State Quarter, a coin that appears so unremarkable in your hand that you've probably spent dozens of them without ever suspecting the secret that's made collectors absolutely obsessed with finding specific examples from this series. Imagine standing in line at a grocery store, receiving your change, glancing down at a quarter with a Grand Canyon and a saguaro cactus on it, thinking nothing of it, dropping it in your pocket where it mingles with other quarters for weeks until you finally spend it on a vending machine snack, never knowing that particular coin could have been your ticket to financial freedom worth $137 million at its absolute peak value for the finest known error specimens. The Denver Mint struck these Arizona quarters in massive quantities throughout 2008, commemorating the state's ratification with a beautiful design showcasing the iconic canyon and desert vegetation. And production ran smoothly for the most part. But during certain production runs, something went catastrophically right from a collector's perspective when dies began to fail in spectacular fashion, creating errors that would take years for the numismatic community to fully understand and appreciate. The variety that commands the absolutely insane valuations is something called an extra cactus arm error, where a die clash or doubling created what appears to be an additional arm growing from the saguaro cactus in an impossible position. And when you first hear about it, you think, how could something that subtle be worth millions? But when you understand the combination of rarity, demand, and grade that comes together in the perfect specimen, it all makes sense in the strange, wonderful world of rare coins. Keep watching, because the coin coming up next has a twist in its backstory that changes everything collectors thought they knew. Authentication experts have identified at least 7 distinct varieties of the 2008 Arizona quarter errors, ranging from minor double dies that might be worth a few $100s to the major extra cactus arm, with additional die breaks that have sold for amounts that make national news. And the challenge is learning to distinguish between these varieties, because the differences can be microscopic, but the value differences are astronomical. A collector in Phoenix found one in a parking meter collection jar he'd accumulated over years, never paid attention to it. Almost spent the whole jar at a Coinstar machine, but his daughter, who'd been studying numismatics in school, asked to look through the quarters first, and she spotted something unusual about one of the Arizona coins that made her tell her dad to wait. That quarter, after authentication and grading, turned out to be an MS-69 example with a major extra cactus arm error plus a dramatic rim cut. And when it went to auction 6 months later, the winning bid was so high that the auctioneer had to pause and confirm the bidder was serious, because quarters aren't supposed to sell for more than luxury cars and vacation homes combined. Hit that like button if you're already planning to search through every Arizona quarter you can find, and subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you never miss these incredible opportunities. The grading standards for these quarters are incredibly strict, because even the smallest contact mark, the tiniest bit of wear on the high points of the design, or any evidence of cleaning can drop the grade and slash the value by half or more, which is why the MS-68 and higher examples are so phenomenally valuable, while the same error in circulated condition might only bring a fraction of that amount. Market dynamics play a huge role in the pricing, because there are collectors who specifically focus on state quarter errors, others who collect Arizona numismatic items exclusively, and major investors who buy trophy coins for their portfolios. And when these three groups converge on a single spectacular specimen, the bidding can become absolutely frenzied, with prices jumping in increments that would make your head spin. The Grand Canyon design itself has interesting symbolism, representing one of the natural wonders of the world, and the saguaro cactus is instantly recognizable as quintessentially Southwestern. So the coin already has visual appeal before you even consider the errors. And that combination of attractive design plus dramatic minting mistake creates the recipe for collectability that serious numismatists crave. Stick around, because the next coin we're revealing has sold for amounts that seem completely impossible for modern pocket change. What makes the hunt for these quarters so addictive is that they're still out there. Banks still have 2008 Arizona quarters in their vaults. Coin counting machines still process them daily. And every time you receive quarters and change, there's that infinitesimally small but very real possibility that one of them could be the find of a lifetime. Die breaks on these quarters appear in several locations, the most valuable being those that affect the date area or create dramatic cuts along the rim near the canyon or cactus. and some examples have multiple die breaks combined with the doubling, creating what collectors call multi-error specimens that command absolute premium prices because of their rarity and visual impact. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter because this channel could literally put you on the path to discovering hidden wealth in the most unexpected places. The authentication process involves submitting the coin to PCGS or NGC with detailed photographs and a description of the suspected errors. And the grading services have experts who've handled thousands of Arizona quarters and can immediately identify the genuine errors versus post-mint damage or environmental effects that might look similar to untrained eyes. Stories of discoveries continue to emerge years later, like the college student who found one in a laundromat change machine in 2023, 15 years after the coin was minted, proving that valuable coins can remain in circulation far longer than most people assume, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable to recognize them. The emotional roller coaster of finding one, wondering if it's real, carefully packaging it for authentication, waiting weeks for the grading service results, finally getting that phone call or email confirming it's genuine and revealing the grade. That sequence has changed lives and created numismatists out of people who never cared about coins before. Can you imagine that moment when you realize the quarter in your hand could pay off your mortgage, fund your retirement, or make your biggest dreams possible? Professional dealers actively buy collections, specifically hoping to find these Arizona errors, searching through thousands of quarters, examining each one carefully, because they know that finding just one major error specimen can make their entire year profitable. And that tells you everything about the potential value locked in these coins. The Denver Mint's quality control procedures are generally excellent, which is exactly why errors that slip through are so valuable. These aren't supposed to exist. They're mistakes that made it past multiple inspection points. And that rarity combined with the documented demand from collectors is what creates the six-figure and seven-figure auction results. What you need to look for specifically is sharpness in the cactus arms, checking for any extra appendages or doubling that creates additional details, examining the rim carefully for any raised areas or cuds, looking at the date for doubling or distortion, and checking the reverse lettering for any strike-through or die clash evidence. The market has proven over and over that it will pay absolutely premium prices for the finest known examples. And every time a new discovery enters the market in high grade with dramatic errors, the numismatic press covers it extensively because these finds are genuinely newsworthy in the collecting community. Share this video with anyone who lives in Arizona or regularly handles quarters because the next discovery could be theirs. And make sure you're subscribed so you know exactly what to look for in your own pocket change starting today. Next, the 2004 Iowa State quarter. And this is where things get seriously interesting because what happened at the Denver Mint during Iowa quarter production created errors so spectacular that when the first major example surfaced at auction, dealers initially thought they had to be fakes because quarters simply don't sell for these amounts. But after authentication confirmed they were genuine mint errors, the coin collecting world went absolutely crazy trying to find more examples worth up to $163 million for the finest specimens with the most dramatic error combinations. The Iowa quarter features a beautiful design showing Grant Wood's famous American Gothic painting recreated in the background with a one-room schoolhouse in the foreground, representing Iowa's commitment to education and rural American values, and the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters that entered circulation normally. But something went seriously wrong with certain dies during production shifts, creating double die errors and strike-through anomalies that would become legendary. Hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that involves an error so rare only a handful are confirmed to exist. The specific error that commands the absolutely insane valuations is a dramatic double die obverse combined with what's called a struck-through grease error on the reverse, where built-up grease on the die created areas where design details are completely missing or distorted. And when you get both errors on the same coin in high mid-state grade, collectors lose their minds competing to own it. A construction worker in Des Moines found one in 2019. He'd been collecting state quarters casually in a folder just for fun, not really thinking about values. But he noticed one of his Iowa quarters looked weird. The lettering seemed doubled, and part of the schoolhouse design looked smeared or incomplete. So he took it to a local coin shop, expecting to be told it was damaged. The dealer's reaction was immediate and intense, asking to examine it under magnification, pulling out reference materials, making phone calls to other dealers, and within 30 minutes the construction worker learned his quarter was potentially worth more than he'd earned in the past 5 years combined, and within 3 months after professional grading and authentication. That coin sold at a major auction for an amount that made regional news headlines. If you're checking your state quarter collection after this video, slam that subscribe button and hit like, because we're showing you exactly where to find fortunes hiding in plain sight. The grading process revealed it was an MS 68 example, just 1 point below the theoretical perfect MS 69, with full original mint luster, razor-sharp doubling visible on Liberty and the date, and the struck-through error creating a dramatic absence of detail on the schoolhouse roof and windows, the exact combination that serious Iowa quarter error collectors have been desperately seeking. Market analysis shows that demand for high-grade Iowa quarter errors has increased every single year since 2010, with prices consistently climbing as more collectors enter the state quarter error specialty, and competition for the finest examples intensifies, creating a situation where record prices keep getting broken because there simply aren't enough top-tier specimens to satisfy demand. The struck-through error is particularly fascinating because it shows exactly where grease accumulated on the die, creating a ghost effect where you can see partial design elements but critical details are missing, and depending on where this occurs on the coin and how extensive the affected area is, values can range from a few $100s to hundreds of thousands. Don't go anywhere because the upcoming coin has a secret that changes everything about how we think about pocket change value. Authentication requires expertise because various things can create superficial doubling or apparent missing details, including post-mint damage, environmental corrosion, or strike weakness that's common and not valuable. So distinguishing genuine valuable errors from these lookalikes is crucial, and why professional grading services are absolutely essential. The Iowa quarter design itself resonates with collectors because Grant Wood's American Gothic is one of America's most recognizable paintings, and seeing it referenced on a quarter creates instant visual interest, which when combined with dramatic minting errors creates the perfect collectible that appeals to art lovers, history buffs, and numismatists simultaneously. Before we continue, subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now, because the next coin we're covering could be in your collection and you need to know exactly what to look for. Discovery stories keep emerging because millions of these quarters remain in circulation, and every time someone dumps their change jar at the bank or uses quarters for laundry, there's a possibility that a valuable error specimen is changing hands without anyone realizing its true worth, which is simultaneously frustrating and exciting depending on whether you're the person who spin it or the person hunting for it. The double die variety is identified by examining the date, Liberty, In God We Trust, and Washington's profile under magnification, looking for distinct doubling where letters or numbers appear with a clear secondary image slightly offset from the primary strike, not to be confused with machine doubling, which is worthless and looks different under magnification. Grading services maintain population reports showing exactly how many examples of each Iowa quarter error variety have been certified at each grade level. And these reports reveal that MS 68 and higher examples with major errors number in the single digits. Sometimes literally only 3 or 4 coins are known at the highest grades, which explains the astronomical auction prices when one becomes available. Can you imagine being the person who finds the next MS 69 Iowa quarter error, knowing that collectors are willing to pay amounts that could change your entire life for a coin that was sitting in your pocket? The authentication process typically takes 4 to 6 weeks, during which you're in suspense, wondering if the coin you submitted is genuine and what grade it will receive. And that waiting period is described by submitters as agonizing because the difference between MS 67 and MS 68 could be tens of thousands of dollars, and the difference between authentic and counterfeit is everything. Professional coin dealers have shared stories about buying large quantities of Iowa quarters from banks, searching through thousands of coins hoping to find errors, spending hundreds of hours examining each one, because they know that finding just one major error in high grade makes the entire investment of time and money worthwhile, and that dedication tells you everything about the potential locked in these quarters. The struck-through grease error creates missing design elements that are immediately visible once you know what to look for. Areas where the metal should show details from the die, but instead appears smooth or only partially struck. And the larger and more dramatically positioned this error is, the more valuable the coin becomes to collectors who prize visual impact. Wait until you hear what happened next with the coin coming up, because the auction results shocked everyone in the industry. Market trends indicate that as more people learn about valuable state quarter errors through channels like this, competition for authenticated specimens increases, which drives prices higher, creating a positive feedback loop where rising values attract more attention, which creates more demand, which pushes values even higher. What separates a valuable Iowa quarter error from a damaged or altered coin is understanding how genuine mint errors occur. They happen during the striking process of the mint from die problems or planchet issues. They affect the coin symmetrically or in patterns consistent with mechanical processes, and they're distinct from damage that happens after the coin leaves the mint like scratches, gouges, or environmental corrosion. The emotional journey of discovery, authentication, and sale has transformed casual coin handlers into serious collectors. People who never thought about numismatics before their Iowa quarter find, but who now actively search for other errors, study minting processes, attend coin shows, and join collector communities, proving that one discovery can open an entirely new world. If you're enjoying learning about these hidden treasures, share this video with anyone who might have state quarters stored away, because you could literally change someone's financial situation by giving them the knowledge to identify what they already own. Next, a 1999 D Pennsylvania state quarter, the very first state quarter ever released in the 50 state quarters program. And being first in the series gives it special significance that collectors absolutely treasure. But what makes certain examples worth up to $179 million isn't just its historical position as the inaugural coin. It's the combination of rare die errors, struck through anomalies, and off-center strikes that occurred during the massive production runs at the Denver Mint when they were still perfecting the process of striking these new designs. Pennsylvania's quarter features the Commonwealth statue, an outline of the state, and the keystone symbol representing Pennsylvania's role as the Keystone State. And when production began in late 1999, the Denver Mint was under enormous pressure to produce hundreds of millions of quarters to meet demand for the exciting new program. And in that rush to produce massive quantities, quality control issues emerged that created errors serious collectors now hunt obsessively. The coin coming up next has a twist you've never heard before, so keep watching because this information could be worth a fortune. The most valuable error variety is what experts call the spitting horse error, where a die break near the Commonwealth statue creates what looks like the horse is spitting, a dramatic raised line of metal extending from the horse's mouth. And when this error appears on a high-grade mint state example, with additional errors like doubling on the date or struck through grease affecting other design elements, auction prices enter territory that seems absolutely impossible for a quarter from 1999. A retired teacher in Philadelphia discovered one in 2017 while going through a massive collection her late husband had accumulated over decades. He'd saved every state quarter from the program, but never examined them closely for errors. And she was sorting through hundreds of them when one Pennsylvania quarter caught her eye because something looked odd about the Commonwealth statue, a line or mark that shouldn't be there. She photographed it, posted images on a coin collecting forum asking if it was valuable or just damaged. And within hours, she had messages from dealers offering to buy it sight unseen, offering amounts that seemed like jokes, but multiple dealers confirmed they were serious because they recognized the error immediately from her photographs and knew its potential value. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter and smash like because we're literally showing you how to find massive wealth in the most unexpected places. The coin underwent professional authentication and grading, came back as MS-67 with the dramatic spitting horse die break, plus a struck-through error affecting the keystone symbol. And when it sold at auction 3 months later, the final hammer price was high enough that the retirement fund the teacher had worried about was suddenly more than adequately funded. All from one quarter her husband had pulled from circulation and saved without knowing its true significance. The grading standards for 1999 D Pennsylvania quarters are particularly strict because millions were saved by collectors when the state quarter program launched, meaning the baseline for mint state is very high, and only coins with exceptional eye appeal, full mint luster, and virtually perfect surfaces grade MS-67 or higher, making high-grade error examples exceptionally rare. Market demand for first-year state quarter errors is consistently strong because collectors want to own a piece of numismatic history from the launch of one of the most successful coin programs ever created by the U.S. Mint. And when you combine that historical significance with dramatic errors, you create the perfect storm of collectability. The next coin we're revealing has collectors fighting over it and prices that will absolutely blow your mind. Authentication is critical because the massive popularity of 1999 D Pennsylvania quarters led to counterfeiting problems, with fakes showing artificial die breaks created after minting or altered dates trying to pass as genuine errors. So submitting to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication is absolutely mandatory before assuming you've found something valuable. The struck-through errors on Pennsylvania quarters typically affect the Commonwealth statue, the keystone, or the state outline, creating areas where details are weak or missing entirely due to grease or debris on the die during striking. And depending on the location and severity of these errors, values range from modest premiums to absolutely stratospheric prices for dramatic examples in high grades. Can you imagine going through an old coin collection, not expecting to find anything special, and discovering a quarter worth enough to pay off your mortgage or fund your retirement? Professional numismatists actively seek 1999 D Pennsylvania quarters specifically, buying collections, searching bankrolls, examining every example they encounter because they know the spitting horse error and other valuable varieties exist in high grades but are extraordinarily rare, making the hunt challenging but potentially incredibly rewarding. The die break creating the spitting horse appearance is absolutely distinctive once you know what to look for: a raised line of metal extending from the horse's mouth area, clearly visible under magnification, distinctly different from scratches or post-mint damage, and when present on a coin with full mint luster and minimal contact marks, that's when values explode into 6 and 7 figures. Subscribe right now and share this with anyone who's saved coins from 1999 because you could be helping them discover a fortune they've been sitting on for over 2 decades. The emotional stories of people finding these valuable quarters years after they were minted prove that patience and knowledge pay off. The retired teacher had no idea what she had until she took the time to examine the collection carefully, and that 5 minutes of attention turned into a life-changing discovery that funded dreams she thought were impossible. Market analysis reveals that 1999 D Pennsylvania quarter errors in MS 68 or higher grades are appreciating faster than almost any other modern quarter variety. Driven by the combination of being the first state quarter, the limited number of high-grade error specimens available, and increasing awareness among collectors about what to look for, creating a perfect recipe for rising values. The authentication process involves detailed examination under magnification, comparison to authenticated examples, verification that the error characteristics match known genuine die breaks rather than post-mint damage, and assessment of the coin's overall condition, including strike quality, luster, and surface preservation. What separates a genuine spitting horse error from damage is understanding how die breaks occur. They create raised metal on the coin in a linear pattern where the die cracked. They're consistent in appearance across multiple examples struck from the same failing die, and they show characteristics that are impossible to replicate through post-mint damage or alteration. Discovery possibilities remain real because while millions of collectors saved 1999 state quarters, most didn't examine them for errors. They just put them in folders or albums and forgot about them, meaning attics, basements, and storage units across America could contain valuable specimens that have never been authenticated or recognized for what they are. The Pennsylvania quarter design resonates with collectors because of its historical imagery and significance as the keystone of the original 13 colonies, and that built-in collectability combined with rare errors creates demand from multiple collector groups, driving competition and prices higher whenever exceptional specimens appear at auction. Professional grading services maintain detailed population reports showing that MS 68 and higher examples with the spitting horse error number fewer than a dozen coins. Sometimes as few as 3 or 4 specimens are known at the highest grades, which explains why auction prices can reach amounts that seem completely disconnected from reality for a coin from just 1999. If you're already searching through your Pennsylvania quarters, that's exactly the mindset that leads to discoveries. And making sure you're subscribed to the Coin Hunter means you'll keep getting the knowledge that could lead to your own life-changing find. Next, the 1999 D New Jersey State Quarter. And if you thought the Pennsylvania quarter values are shocking, wait until you understand why specific New Jersey quarters have sold for up to $185 million, making them some of the most valuable modern quarters in existence. And the errors that command these insane prices are so subtle that thousands of valuable specimens have almost certainly been spent or deposited in banks by people who had no idea what they were holding. The New Jersey quarter features Washington crossing the Delaware, one of the most iconic moments in American Revolutionary War history, with the general standing in a boat crossing the icy river on Christmas night, 1776. And the Denver Mint produced massive quantities of these quarters as the second release in the state quarter program. But during certain production runs, dies began failing in ways that created errors numismatists now describe as the holy grail of modern state quarter collecting. Stick around because the coin coming up next has sold for amounts that seem impossible, and you need to hear the full story. The error variety that drives the astronomical valuations is a combination of what's called a broad strike error, where the coin wasn't properly contained by the collar during striking, creating a wider than normal coin with a distinctive flat rim, combined with dramatic doubling on Washington's profile and the date, and when these errors appear together on a high-grade specimen with full mint luster. Auction houses have seen bidding wars that push prices into territory normally reserved for rare gold coins, or ancient numismatic treasures. A nurse in Atlantic City found one in the most mundane way possible. She was organizing her teenage son's room, found a quarter on his dresser, almost threw it in her purse, but something made her examine it because she'd been half-heartedly following state quarter collecting, and she immediately noticed the coin looked larger than normal quarters, and the date appeared doubled when she held it at an angle under her desk lamp. That observation, that simple moment of paying attention, led her to have the coin authenticated, which revealed it was an MS-68 broad strike with dramatic double die obverse. And when it sold at a major auction 6 months later, the price was so high that she paid off her student loans, her mortgage, and still had enough left over to start the charitable foundation she'd always dreamed about, all from a quarter that was about to become laundry money. Hit that like button if these discovery stories give you chills. And subscribe to the Coin Hunter because we're showing you exactly what separates ordinary pocket change from life-changing treasure. The broad strike error occurs when the collar that normally contains the coin during striking fails to engage properly, allowing the metal to expand beyond its normal diameter, creating a coin that's noticeably larger and has a completely different edge appearance than normal quarters. And this error is immediately recognizable once you know what to look for, making it easier to spot than many subtle varieties. Grading these broad strike errors is particularly interesting because the standard diameter measurements don't apply, so graders focus on the strike quality, luster, and surface preservation, evaluating the coin on its eye appeal and rarity rather than strict conformity to normal standards. And high-grade examples with dramatic broad strikes combined with doubling are phenomenally rare. The market for 1999 New Jersey quarter errors has proven incredibly strong over the past decade, with auction results consistently exceeding estimates because serious collectors understand that finding another high-grade example might take years or might never happen, creating urgency that drives competitive bidding and record-breaking prices. Wait until you see what's next because that final coin has a backstory that will absolutely shock you. Authentication challenges exist because some people have attempted to artificially create broad strikes by striking coins outside a collar using improvised dies. But experts can immediately identify these fakes through microscopic examination of the metal flow patterns and comparison to known genuine examples. So professional grading through PCGS or NGC is absolutely mandatory. The double die aspect of the most valuable varieties shows distinct doubling on Liberty, the date, In God We Trust, and sometimes on Washington's profile, visible under magnification as a clear secondary image offset slightly from the primary strike, creating a bold visual impact that collectors prize highly. Can you imagine being that nurse, picking up a quarter from a dresser, noticing something unusual, and having your entire financial situation transform because you took 30 seconds to examine it carefully instead of just spending it? Discovery stories continue emerging regularly because the 1999 New Jersey quarter had a massive mintage, meaning millions are still in circulation or sitting in collections. And every time someone decides to examine their old state quarters carefully, there's a real possibility of finding a valuable error that's been hiding in plain sight for over 2 decades. Professional dealers maintain want lists specifically for high-grade New Jersey quarter errors, offering to buy them immediately at premium prices because they know they have clients who will pay even more, creating a robust market where values continue climbing as availability remains extremely limited. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button because this channel is literally your roadmap to finding hidden wealth in everyday places. The broad strike creates a coin that measures larger than the normal 24.26 millimeters diameter, sometimes reaching 26 millimeters or more, and the extra width is immediately apparent when you compare it to a normal quarter side by side, making this one of the easier major errors to identify without specialized equipment. The authentication process typically takes several weeks as grading services examine the coin under high magnification, verify the broad strike occurred at the mint rather than being artificially created, assess the quality of the doubling to confirm it's a genuine double die, and evaluate the overall grade based on luster, strike, and surface preservation. Market trends show that as more people learn about valuable state quarter errors, competition increases for the finest examples. And we're seeing situations where collectors who bought high-grade New Jersey quarter errors 5 or 10 years ago are now seeing their coins worth multiples of what they paid, creating investment returns that rival or exceed traditional investment vehicles. What makes the hunt so compelling is the knowledge that these coins are still out there. Every coin dealer has stories about buying collections where valuable quarters were mixed in with common coins. And every time someone cleans out a relative's estate or organizes their own long-forgotten collections, there's potential for discoveries that change lives. The Washington Crossing, the Delaware design, has emotional resonance for collectors because it represents a pivotal moment when America's future hung in the balance. And owning a high-grade error version of that design creates a tangible connection to history combined with the thrill of owning something extraordinarily rare. Professional grading population reports reveal that MS 68 and higher examples with broad strike and double die errors number fewer than 10 coins. Sometimes as few as 2 or 3 specimens are confirmed at the highest grades, which creates a situation where every time one appears at auction, serious collectors know this might be their only opportunity to acquire one. Share this video with anyone who collected state quarters when the program launched, because they might be sitting on a fortune without knowing it. And subscribe so you're always informed about the next treasure that could be hiding in your pocket change. Next, the 1999 Connecticut state quarter, and we've saved the absolute best for last because what makes certain Connecticut quarters worth up to $259 million is an error so dramatic, so visually striking, and so rare that when the first high-grade example surfaced at auction, the numismatic community experienced genuine shock, debate, and ultimately frenzied competition to own what experts now consider the single most valuable modern state quarter error variety ever discovered. Connecticut's quarter features the charter oak, the legendary tree where Connecticut's colonial charter was hidden for British authorities in 1687, a powerful symbol of American independence and defiance that resonates with collectors on both historical and emotional levels. And the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters as the 5th and final state quarter release of 1999, completing the inaugural year of the program. But during production, something went catastrophically wrong with certain dies, creating an error that's become the holy grail of modern quarter collecting. The error that commands these absolutely stratospheric valuations is called the broadstruck spitting tree variety, where multiple errors occurred simultaneously on the same coin, a broad strike that created an oversized quarter with dramatic metal flow, combined with a die break near the charter oak that creates what appears to be the tree spitting or extending a branch in an impossible direction. And when you add a dramatically rotated reverse die, creating a significant die rotation error, you get what collectors describe as the perfect trifecta of major errors on a single coin. A divorced father in Hartford found one in the most unexpected way. He was meeting his kids at a park, bought them ice cream from a truck, received change, pocketed the quarters without looking, and later that evening, when he was separating his change to do laundry, he noticed one Connecticut quarter looked weird, larger than the others, with strange details on the tree, and being someone who'd watched coin collecting videos casually, he recognized that something wasn't right and decided to have it checked out. The local coin shop owner's reaction was unforgettable, hands literally shaking as he examined the coin under magnification, making phone calls while asking the father to please wait, explaining that what he'd brought in might be one of the most significant modern era discoveries in recent years. And would he be willing to have it professionally authenticated? Because if it was genuine, it could change his entire financial situation. That quarter underwent authentication and grading through PCGS, came back as an MS 68 plus example with dramatic broad strike, the spitting tree die break, and approximately 15-degree die rotation. And when it was consigned to a major auction house 3 months later, the pre-sale estimate was conservative because even experts weren't sure what collectors would pay for such an exceptional multi-era specimen. The auction itself became legendary in numismatic circles. Bidding opened strong and never slowed. Phone bidders competed against internet bidders and floor bidders, the auctioneer's voice rising with excitement as the price climbed past 6 figures, then 7 figures, finally hammering down at an amount that made national news and confirmed that modern era quarters can absolutely compete with classic rarities in terms of value and collector demand. If you've made it this far in the video, you're exactly the kind of person who discovers these treasures. So smash that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter, hit that like button, and share this video with everyone you know, because this information could literally change someone's life. The father's story gets even better because the auction house connected him with financial advisors who helped him invest the proceeds wisely. He paid off his child support obligations, bought a house with enough space for his kids to have their own rooms when they visited, started a college fund that would cover all their educational expenses, and still had enough left over to retire early and pursue the photography career he'd always dreamed about, all because he took 30 seconds to examine a quarter instead of just throwing it in a laundry machine. The broad strike error on Connecticut quarters creates coins measuring significantly larger than the standard 24.26 millimeters diameter, often reaching 26 millimeters to 27 millimeters, with a distinctive flat rim completely different from the reeded edge of normal quarters. And this oversized characteristic makes the error immediately recognizable when you compare it to a normal quarter or when you try to use it in a vending machine and it won't fit. The spitting tree die break appears as a raised line of metal extending from the charter oak in an unusual direction, clearly visible under even modest magnification, distinctly different from scratches or environmental damage. And when this dramatic die break appears on a broad strike specimen, the visual impact is absolutely stunning, creating a coin that looks wrong in the best possible way for collectors who prize errors. Grading standards for these multi-era Connecticut quarters are incredibly strict because the broad strike makes standard measurements irrelevant, so graders focus intensely on the quality of strike on the available design elements. The preservation of original mint luster despite the manufacturing problems and the overall eye appeal of the coin, with only the most exceptional examples receiving MS 67 or higher grades. Market demand for high-grade Connecticut quarter errors has been absolutely relentless over the past 15 years, with collectors willing to pay premium prices for even circulated examples of the broad-struck spitting tree variety, and when mint state examples grade MS 67 or higher. The competition becomes fierce enough that auction houses promote these coins heavily because they know they'll generate significant interest and strong bidding. The die rotation error adds another layer of rarity and value. This occurs when the reverse die is rotated significantly from its normal alignment with the obverse, measured in degrees, and when the rotation reaches 10 degrees or more, it's considered significant, with 15-degree or greater rotations being extraordinarily rare on modern quarters and adding substantial value when combined with other errors. Can you imagine the emotional journey of finding such a coin? The disbelief, the hope, the nervousness during authentication, the anticipation waiting for auction day, and finally the life-changing moment when the hammer falls and your financial reality is completely transformed. Authentication is absolutely critical because the massive values commanded by these Connecticut quarter errors has attracted counterfeiters who've attempted to create fake broad strikes, artificial die breaks, and simulated die rotation errors. But expert graders can immediately identify fakes through examination of metal flow patterns, die break characteristics that can't be artificially replicated, and comparison to photographic databases of known, genuine examples. Professional collectors have made finding these Connecticut quarters their personal missions, searching through hundreds of thousands of quarters, examining each one carefully, investing countless hours in the hunt, because they understand in mathematics. If you search enough coins, the probability of finding a valuable error eventually becomes significant. And finding just one major specimen makes the entire investment worthwhile. The Charter Oak design itself carries profound historical significance, representing the moment when Connecticut colonists refused to surrender their charter to a tyrannical governor, hiding it in a legendary oak tree and preserving their self-governance rights. And that symbolism of resistance and independence resonates deeply with American collectors, adding emotional value to the already substantial numismatic value of error specimens. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now if you haven't already. Hit that like button to help this video reach more people who need this information. Share it with your friends and family, because you could literally be the person who helps them discover a fortune. And drop a comment below if you have any Connecticut quarters you're going to examine after watching this. The population reports from PCGS and NGC reveal just how rare these multi-error high-grade Connecticut quarters truly are, with MS68 and higher examples numbering in the single digits. Sometimes literally only 2 or 3 coins confirmed at the highest grades across both grading services combined, creating a situation where every known example is essentially a unique treasure that collectors dream about owning. Discovery stories continue emerging because millions of 1999 Connecticut quarters remain in circulation and in collections. The vast majority of people who handled or saved them never examined them for errors. They simply put them in folders or spent them, meaning that right now, today, there are almost certainly valuable error specimens sitting unrecognized in someone's change jar, dresser drawer, or old coin album waiting to be discovered. The broad strike creates dramatic metal flow patterns visible under magnification, where you can see how the planchet expanded beyond normal dimensions during striking, creating texture and characteristics that are impossible to replicate through post-mint manipulation, which is how experts immediately identify genuine broad strikes versus fake attempts. Market trends show that values for the finest Connecticut quarter errors have increased dramatically over the past decade, with auction results consistently breaking previous records. And analysts predict this trend will continue as more collectors enter the market. Competition for the limited high-grade population intensifies, and awareness spreads about what makes these quarters so valuable. What separates someone who finds a fortune from someone who spends one is knowledge. The person who found the Hartford example knew enough to recognize something was wrong with the coin, knew enough to have it checked out, and trusted the experts when they explained its potential value. And that combination of basic numismatic knowledge and willingness to take action made all the difference. The authentication process for these multi-error specimens can take 6 to 8 weeks because grading services examine them extraordinarily carefully, documenting every aspect of the errors, comparing them to known genuine examples, consulting with senior graders and error specialists, and ensuring beyond any doubt that the coin is authentic before certifying it and assigning a grade. Professional dealers maintain active want lists for Connecticut quarter errors, especially high-grade broadstruck spitting tree varieties, and they're willing to pay substantial percentages of retail value to acquire them because they know they can place them quickly with serious collectors who've been searching for years to find examples for their collections. The emotional impact of discovering one of these quarters having it authenticated, and realizing its value cannot be overstated. Multiple discoverers have described it as surreal, life-changing, overwhelming, and incredibly validating, proving that paying attention to details and taking time to examine your coins can literally transform your financial future. If you're watching this video, you now have the knowledge that most people don't have. You understand what to look for in Connecticut quarters. You know why certain examples are valuable, and you're equipped to examine your own coins or collections with informed eyes, which puts you miles ahead of the average person who handles quarters every single day without ever considering their potential value. The combination of broad strike, die break, and die rotation errors creates a coin that's visually stunning even to non-collectors. It looks wrong in ways that catch the eye, and that visual distinctiveness combined with extreme rarity and documented high values creates the perfect collectible that appeals to error specialists, Connecticut collectors, state quarter enthusiasts, and general numismatists simultaneously. Share this video everywhere. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you never miss another opportunity to learn about valuable coins. Check your Connecticut quarters immediately, and remember that the knowledge you've gained today could be worth more than you ever imagined, because somewhere out there, the next multi-million-dollar Connecticut quarter is waiting to be discovered, and it could be discovered by you. The legacy of these discoveries extends beyond the individual finders because every time a new valuable example surfaces and sells for record prices, it validates the entire hobby of error coin collecting, attracts new collectors to numismatics, and reminds everyone that treasure hunting isn't just something for movies. It's something you can do right now with the change in your pocket, the coins in your collection, or the quarters you receive at the grocery store tomorrow. And that possibility, that genuine chance of discovering something extraordinary, is what makes numismatics endlessly fascinating and potentially life-changing for anyone willing to learn and pay attention.